Sony finally lets gamers have mods.
And Twitch needs mods more than ever.
We'll cruise into Oculus's new prototype.
And why Valve needs to vent a little bit of early access steam.
I'm Sam Chen.
And I'm Paul Mooney.
All these stories and more confused looks than that GameStop Goat commercial. Stay tuned, you're watching the Nerdy News Roundup.
We begin the show with Bethesda, the company with all the onions that occasionally let users play for games with bottle caps. We reported a couple of weeks ago that mod support wasn't coming to Sony consoles, but fans were thrilled at the reversal this week, as Fallout 4 and Skyrim Special Edition will be getting limited mod support and native 4K rendering on the PS4 Pro. Sam, Sony will be limited with in-game assets. How will we live without a Dallas Cowboys faction?
I don't know. Maybe we'll get the Carolina Panthers. No. Here's the thing. I think it's good to see Sony moving this way. Maybe they genuinely looked at fan reaction and said, you know what? Maybe we are disappointing the fans. Let's come back with something that's a good middle ground, right? And that middle ground was, hey, like, we're going to give you in-game mods, but we're not going to let you inject essentially like other things in, right? Do everything within the in-game engine, and that's fine. And I think it's not ideal, but it's a good compromise middle ground for people who've already shelled out money for games.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely one possibility. It also could be that Bethesda just kept on going to the gates and saying, look, we've sold millions and millions of games for you guys. Maybe we could come to some sort of compromise, and maybe that's kind of what we're seeing here, too. Which is, I mean, no, we will never actually know.
Well, so here's the conspiracy theory, though. The conspiracy theory is maybe Bethesda went to Sony and was like, you know what? We're not going to push out updates for PS4 Pro.
Could be.
Fuck you. We're not doing 4K updates. Yeah. We'll just do regular ones.
Like I said, we'll never know, but I guarantee you there's at least some manner of backdoor dealing that happened between Sony and Bethesda where they're like,
we know which one of them won.
You know, maybe Fallout 5 just doesn't come to PS4 or Sony at any point next time. How much revenue loss would that be? And
this Scorpio imagination thing is pretty good.
It says it's going to do everything your system does and more, even though we don't know if it's real or not. But hell, we'll develop for something that's not real as long as they let us do what we want to. So it could be an
Well played, Bethesda. Well played.
Our hats off to Bethesda for winning this one over.
Valve was trying to get hip by going retro. The latest update, dubbed the Graffiti Update, brings back sprays for that bit of multiplayer flair that we've all been missing. Unfortunately, CSGO fans have been outraged by the implementation, specifically complaining about the limited uses, paying to upload and use custom sprays, and the reality that the company is sneaking monetization into every possible orifice it can find. Paul, this sounds a lot like weapon skins. Will Valve ever learn their lesson?
Well, I mean, if the lesson is you have to find alternative ways to make money after that one has been shut down, then, yeah, they've already learned. That's what they're demonstrating here as it stands. And, I mean, I do like the graffiti option. I've seen graffiti used in CSGO previously, or other versions of Counterstrike where it's just like kind of stock photos and stuff like that. So having a wide variety of those things, you know, it doesn't really change the gameplay, but use weapon skins. But at the same time, it does add some additional characterization to your gameplay where you can like tag stuff. So
yeah. Let's just come up with something else exactly like weapon skins. People will take another couple of years before they find out that's betting.
Look, the gaming monetization has to come through some way. You can't have illegal gambling without some kind of good monetization for illegal gambling. Who cares? This is just their way of accomplishing. Oh, it may not be their way of accomplishing that. Maybe it's just like, you know, weapon skins have been tainted, so now we have to come up with something else to have microtransactions.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not surprised by this move.
No, not at all.
I was actually kind of surprised when I found out they were still doing custom stuff, and then they're trying to like profit share with artists. Like, I liked it better when it was just more. Think back to like how Overwatch does it, right? Like you can still pay to unlock some custom sprays, do other stuff, but it's not about like uploading and doing all this other
Overwatch
stuff.
is so much newer. That's the whole thing. Like this wouldn't be an issue if CSGO wasn't in existence as long as it was, where it had the issues with the actual online gambling black market and with the weapon skins associated with it. Like give it a couple years. Maybe Overwatch will develop the same sort of thing if the professional circuit goes on so far and there's underground gambling that goes associated with it. Although I feel like Blizzard is smart enough to have legal above board gambling to go along with their gaming, knowing how they monetize their efforts. So I think it's just the fact that it's been around for so long and it's so fresh in our minds that weapon skins was associated with gambling, that now with the graffiti market, where again it's very similar in concept, but achieves a different thing. But really, ultimately, it's just Valve just saying, hey, we do want to still have a microtransaction resource available in the game. Will it be corrupted by gambling? But probably. Let's be honest.
Yes, it will.
Look, the harder you try to discourage gambling, the more you put it underground, the more those efforts will come to surface later on down the line. And this will probably be another means by which that avenue will happen. Not saying 100% sure, but from the way it looks, it's definitely something that's possible. But at the same time, you can't fault them for saying we want microtransactions. Who the fuck doesn't want microtransactions in your game where you can just get, a couple cents here and there for small things that don't really affect gameplay? From the gamer perspective, good. From the outside associated world with gambling and whatnot, it is what it is. Do you want to pay money for incomplete games? Then you're probably one of the many who are taking in Steam's early access program. Through a document obtained by PC Gamer, we now have a peek behind the developer curtain as to why so many early access titles have been controversial. Most of the rules suggest once Valve approves your product page, you can do whatever you want, as long as you don't promise the game will be any better, have a release date, or imply that Valve tacitly approved your game at all. Sam, early access has been hit or miss on Valve. Is it time that Valve turns up the steam on the early access pipeline?
I think as someone who hasn't had a ton of exposure to early access until more recently, it makes a lot of sense why I see all these complaints after reading these rules, right? What set of rules for game developers include, don't tell people you're going to finish your game? Really? Don't put a release date out there? Don't set I understand what they're saying. Don't set the expectations so you can't meet them and then you get kind of screwed over later. To me, this is bad. I would rather, given the state of what they're describing right now, I would rather have something look, if you kickstart the game, you'll get pre-order access, or you get a beta version, or you get something else, where you understand that you're going to get a final version. Paying for an incomplete version of the game just sounds like bad. Someone's getting hurt, and it's probably going to be the gamer.
Yeah, I think the consumer, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a buyer beware type deal. When you're getting into early access, you should automatically at least have a caution flag in your head that what I'm getting may just be crap. If you're being convinced by demos or anything like that, and indeed there is a Hyperloop train for this game that's in early access and it's available to you now, you might be better off waiting. Don't get on the train.
Yeah.
Don't buy those tickets.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. This is where I think if you look at Steam as a marketplace, they have some responsibility for cleaning this up. Now, people are playing by the rules they have and getting what they deserve, but I think for a better ecosystem, Steam should put out something that makes it either more difficult to get an early access game, more obvious what the limitations of early access really are. The only reason we've even seen this being covered is because a journalism site got the documents that are sent to developers, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't publicly available information. Right. If Valve was more open and public about that, I could see this not being as much of an issue because people understand the risks. I don't think they do right now.
Well, I don't think they do, but I also don't think people, again, do their own homework, which is kind of, I still feel like the part of that is on them. This isn't new that a lot of early access games have been crap. I don't watch every YouTube PC gamer in the world, but even if you just watch a couple and watch some of their alpha access or early access videos on some certain games, you'll see that some of them are shit, and they'll say this is shit. I got a free copy of it because I'm a game reviewer, and they were here, review this game, be honest or whatever, and they're being honest, and they're like, this is horrible. You shouldn't pay money for this.
See, I would almost if basically the FTC came out and said, for gamers or ESRB or whatever ratings agency you want to use, right? For gamers, we're going to define a couple of terms. We're going to define early access, open alpha, closed alpha, open beta, closed beta. Like to the point where anything that happens before a game release is clearly defined and has to fall into these categories.
It's like I too would like to see that sort of thing, but if you see how little interest they already have in gaming overall, like other than saying,
you'd have to pull a Sean Murray to get their attention.
Exactly. You've got to do something where you've like misled the consumers in a way that's so egregious that literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people say, I am not getting what I paid for here. If you're talking about early access games on Steam, then I mean the audience is what? Maybe a few hundred people for most games on average. It's just not going to get their attention overall. So in that regard, especially since No Man's Sky, we're talking about what was supposed to be like a small game turning into a large AAA title, ended up being a very small indie game at the end of the day. It's just I don't think they want to deal with it because I think there's other complaints that they have to deal with that actually lose people lots of money for things that they probably need in their lives, unfortunately. So this is probably going to rank bottom of the poll in that regard.
The Santa Cruz isn't just Mr. Claus's annual post-Christmas vacation. It's also the code name for Oculus's new prototype. The Santa Cruz Rift wants to bring you the visual fidelity of the original Rift and the portability of Samsung's Gear VR. Not only does the Santa Cruz ditch the wires, they also ditched the IR emitters and the separate sensor camera and replaced them with cameras at each corner on the front. Paul, Oculus says this unit will scale to whatever living situation you're in, even if it's as big as a football field. Just how obsolete does this make first-generation VR devices?
I would say it's obsolete, but that's kind of typical for how PC gaming works, right? Like you have one generation, then like the next generation, which may not be that far off, gets subjectively better. Like I don't see how that's not standard of fare for PC gaming. I am coming from someone who doesn't do that much PC gaming, so you can feel free to call my bluff on that one. Like I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like something that's fairly common.
Yeah, I think it's unsurprising that this was going to happen, and I think ironically the person that it hurts the most is the guy who's going to go out and buy a PSVR. Right? Because you can say Oculus and Vive people were like early adopters. Maybe they got on the hype train for a reason. Maybe they wanted to like put YouTube content up, whatever, right? So they kind of got what they paid for. PSVR is coming in maybe mid-cycle. And maybe at Q1, Q2 of next year, we see a wireless Vive, we see a wireless Oculus. Intel gets their wireless thing going.
So they start getting lighter as time goes on. Like even in the next like year or two, you might start seeing VR headsets that are like wireless, but also like paperweight on people's heads. Not saying exactly that much, but it's definitely a possibility where things will start going in that direction, where the technology gets that incrementally better.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like this contrasting so Jim Sterling did a video this week reviewing the PSVR, and he actually had some pretty positive things to say at it overall, but he was like, oh, well, the Move controllers are old technology, and they're kind of, it feels bad because they're kind of trying to rip you off with these $50 things that are like 6 years old. And I'm like, but you know what? It's kind of cool that they just work still, it's them figuring out a solution to a technical problem without trying to make it overcomplicated.
Right.
Which I think if you look at even how the PSVR is designed and how it sits on your head, I don't know why every device isn't like that for VR. So,
well, see, it can be soon enough.
It will be. That's the problem.
That's the whole thing. Like as time goes on, people or developers for PC components can be like, wow, people seem to enjoy the way the PSVR sits on your head. Let's do that. And then they have their R&D departments to spend whatever money is necessary to make that sort of thing happen. So it still goes back to the original point where that technology will definitely progress much faster than what we're going to see from the VR console.
And to kind of close this off, I think what makes this really great is because I feel like we're going to start seeing the migration of VR, AR very soon. Because when you think about it, like putting cameras on the front and measuring distances and mapping out your space, that's what AR is.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So you're making the AR unit an AR unit. So now you might need to update your graphical display elements to show AR more realistically. But we're almost there.
That would still be cool. Yeah. It's time for a break where we pay the bills and update our graffiti bets. Play Pachinko.
When we come back, just how toxic is the video gaming community? From in-game chat to Twitch chat, let's see how game companies are going to work on diversity in gaming. Stay tuned, you're watching the Nerdy News Roundup. This week's sponsor we wish we had is X-Ray. Do you produce videos for YouTube only to face the daunting task of color grading? Then get this Color Checker Passport video. After 10 weeks of doing the show, I'm done pulling my hair out, so I picked up one of these bad boys to save all the hours during my workflow. So if you know anyone at X-Ray, tell them we sent you and beg them to give us some money. Or the Big Brother version of this color chart. And for our main story tonight. Toxicity and diversity isn't just about America's 2016 election. It's also about how people behave themselves online. We saw Terrence Miller get a lot of coverage when a racially charged Twitch chat was hating on the Hearthstone player at DreamHack Austin. That toxicity reared its ugly head again at this year's TwitchCon, where Terrence and other online personalities got hate during the Diversified Twitch panel. And this toxicity even found its way to League of Legends, where IMA player Hankil Road Yoon received a one-match suspension and a $2,000 fine for racially insensitive language and player abuse during in-game chat. While a one-game suspension might not seem like a lot, it's certainly a big deal when it comes during the World Championship tournament. Paul, racism on the internet? No way. Will video game companies need to lead the charge for diversity for millennials?
I think it's a good starting point, but I also think it should also be a place where people should start to develop some thick skin when it comes to things like this. I'm not totally disagreeing with the fact that, yes, diversity is a significant issue in the world, and video games would be a good place to be introduced to it, or to introduce people to it, especially at a younger age. But I also think you have to prepare people for the reality that when you get outside that environment, it may not be so nice and safe space.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because I almost feel like the way this generation's being raised is almost getting into this almost post-racial set, right? So I have a sister who's 13 years younger than me, and kind of the things she's been exposed to online, especially, going around on Tumblr, I feel like makes her really numb to any real impact of hate speech in a way that people nowadays in an older generation, our generation, would react negatively to those kind of words. So I wonder if that's also part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely could be right about that. It could be just the evolution where kids who have been exposed to it for so long are like, I don't know what this person's saying. Like, who I'm never going to meet them in real life. Maybe they have that understanding, whereas we base a lot of our interactions on, I've experienced something similar to this in real life, and now I'm seeing it online too. It's just doubling that anxiety, where if, you grew up in a smaller community and then you see that stuff online first, it's maybe easier to ignore it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I even go back, like in my days at high school, video games and whatnot, like using the term "you're gay" as kind of derogatory statement was a big thing, but it was also accepted, right?
Yeah.
Like no one really felt that bad about saying that. And homosexuality was kind of, I don't want to call it a joke, but it was referenced in such a way.
Right.
Now, 5-10 years later, I understand that was me being childish, or that was all of us being childish, not really understanding what
the context
people were actually going through.
Right.
I think the younger generation now, if someone were to use that kind of terminology, they'd be like, what are you, 60? How is that even an insult?
Right.
You're stupid.
Yeah,
it's not even you're being a negative person. It's just
they can just come at you for being old.
You're
old. It's like saying hip now or something like that. Yeah, jive turkey is the equivalent to saying, "Oh, you're gay now."
I have a jive turkey.
Jive turkey was a serious insult back in the 60s. Then when people said it 1990 or so, what the fuck? Who cares? And I feel you could be right onto something where that's now that equivalent. You're gay. What? How is that even supposed to affect me at all? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between the language you use and what cyberbullying really is, and I think the language you use is an effect of it or is something that leads to it, but that's not really the only part that's kind of creating some of these cyberbullying tragedies that we see now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, yes, companies need to take a step forward, and I think YouTube is and Twitch is in terms of trying to give moderators more tools to help manage long-form chats, but the reality is it's going to be more in hearts and minds of individuals than it really is going to be up to Valve or Blizzard or Twitch.
Completely agree.
Do you think video gaming needs to do more about diversity? Let us know in the comments below. Can't get enough of nerd culture? Then check out all the great content we have on the Nerdy Nights YouTube channel. Join me and Eric on Couch Co-op Confidential as we stream couch co-op games. Currently, we're gearing up to play Gears of War 4 with more robotic hordes than a Walking Dead trailer. Mike and I have just picked up the Stick of Truth and are saving South Park from the zombie Nazis. Check out Let's Play Podcast for a whole new way to Let's Play. And don't forget to check out our Twitch channel, Nerdy_Nights, where after finally building my new PC, we're ready to play a blind Link to the Past race. Find out if Eric or I will be the true master of the Master Sword. Click the links below for all this great content and more.
And now for everyone's favorite segment of the week, we turn to our lightning round, where we answer the age-old question, does this matter? The Santa Cruz isn't the only showboard that Oculus Rift has in port. It also has asynchronous spacewarp. This mouthful of technology will allow cheaper hardware to bring VR experience to your living room. Sam, $4.99 isn't enough to buy me a $5 footlong. Will it actually be able to help me experience VR better?
$5 footlongs. I want a $5 footlong. All right, cut. We're going to go now. So I think it is cool that we're getting technology that's kind of... Essentially what this technology is supposed to do is it's supposed to fill in the gaps and try to generate some pixels in a way that still gives you a visual experience without having to have your GPU be SBV. So I think this does matter in the sense that someone who may be thinking, oh, I need to purchase a new graphics card to really experience VR might get the chance to, have their graphics card live on a little bit longer. So I think it's good. I just don't think people are going to be ultimately happy with the VR experience they get.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be groundbreaking. I think it does matter because it will allow people to experience VR with their current setup, like you said. But I don't think it's going to push that experience to like astronomical levels in any way, shape, or form. But still important because, like you said, you can save a little bit of money because you'll at least get the base experience, and at least you can get a taste for whether or not you really want to experience VR long term anyway with the current setup you have now. If it's not something you're actually interested in, or if it makes you fucking motion sick or something like that, then, if you didn't spend that much money on your PC, you just had to buy the parts for it. So,
yeah. Microsoft isn't going to sit idly by while Sony has all the movie-making fun. It's not the movie we were promised in 2007 when Epic Games owned the franchise. It's a brand new Gears of War movie from Universal with Microsoft and the Coalition as partners. Paul, the producers so far are responsible for such thrillers as Ted and Central Intelligence. So the real question is this going to be better than Assassin's Creed?
I don't know. But I can tell you what I do know. It doesn't matter because it's a video game movie. Look, video game movies are just historically bad. There is just no way around that. Like, it will still bring in money because there is an audience that will pay for it. Will it be a good movie? Probably not. I'm going to say.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I agree with you. This matters for me because I love the Gears franchise. But it really doesn't matter for anyone because it's probably going to suck. And the reason I know it's going to suck is because when I read the piece about it, they were like, oh yeah, this is such a storied franchise. So we're really going to need to rewrite the story in a really good way. I'm like, what the fuck?
This formula was really good. Let's fuck it up and change it.
I mean, like, yeah, I get it. You're going to need to adapt some of the game, but you can't just be like rewriting the story.
They did the same thing with Uncharted. Whoa, you know what? Uncharted was a really good storied franchise with everything written out very well, and people thought it was a movie. Let's change all that and make a movie with Mark Wahlberg and his family. How does that make any sense to anyone logically? But I get it. People who don't actually play the games won't understand the context for it. And that's the logic behind let's just rewrite the whole thing so it appeals to everyone, but fuck.
I really want, like, an Aaron Sorkin adaptation of a game. Because I feel like that would be great. But short of that, I have no faith in video game movies.
Valve's home state is turning up the heat on the game maker when it comes to skin betting. The Washington State Gambling Commission announced it gave Valve the final ultimatum to stop facilitating the use of skins in gambling activities by October 14th. Sam, it's been reported that the CSGO Lounge has handled more than $1 billion worth of bets before it was shut down. Will this have any effect on the gambling atmosphere at all?
No, so I don't think this matters because I think Valve was already taking these steps to reduce betting and kind of eliminate this all. And I don't think anyone had come to the board with a solution that was creative and was going to keep betting alive. I think there is a piece of this that wasn't as strictly covered that I do think is important, and that piece is a Washington state judge did knock down a class action lawsuit saying, like, look, if you were too dumb enough to not understand why you shouldn't be sports betting on these e-games and then you lost money because of it, you don't get to sue the maker of the game to get your money back. Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, it's true.
So that story I think does matter, but this is just par for the course.
Yeah, no, I don't think this is going to make much of a difference in the end realm of thing, especially since they're just going to find something else to bet on anyway.
Graffiti. Sorry, what?
I don't know what you're talking about there, but I just know that there might be something similar that may have a cosmetic value coming into CSGO's marketplace at some point that may also be worthy of betting on in terms of monetary value offline. I don't know how that system would ever come into place, and it may take some criminal mastermind to develop such a thing, but I assure you it will happen at some point.
No Man's Sky creator Sean Murray isn't the only thing that seems to have disappeared. This week saw a temporary shutdown of the NMS subreddit. Moderator Rogue Wolf made the unilateral decision to close the subreddit as it had become a hate-filled waste hole of no actual discussion, much like Reddit itself. Paul, unlike Sean Murray, the subreddit did resurface. Will anything actually change, though?
Probably not. Until the game itself changes to meet some of the unreal expectations as a result of the Hyperloop train that it was on previously, no. If you open it up again with no changes to the game, expect the exact same crap. Until someone finds Sean Murray and he actually addresses some of these issues, which will never happen. Hint, spoiler.
See, I agree with you. I don't think this matters. But I think it's because someone has found Sean Murray. And no updates will be coming.
Look, until I see a freaking subreddit where they show Sean Murray's pictures of what's been happening to him from the No Man's Sky community. Like, probably some
So here's the thing. You come up with a new game. Right. You got Sean Murray in a corner with a webcam. And you have to pay money to actually feed him. Otherwise, he starves to death on stream.
See, that would get views. That would be good. That would be a good subreddit. I would go to that subreddit. I can't go to the No Man's Sky subreddit anymore because it's been closed down because of hate speech.
So I think what we need to do is get a dark room, get a Sean Murray mask, and pretend like that's what's happening.
Oh, that's a good Halloween costume now that I think about it.
Or the real Sean Murray when he stand up.
Bottom line, I don't think this matters to me. Yeah, the game hasn't changed before anything else happens with the subreddit. That's really my thing. We've talked about Digital Homicide committing Steam suicide, and it appears that the company put the final nail in its own coffin. The company finally called off its lawyers and are calling it quits. Sam, it's pretty bad when a company can't even afford to pay for its own frivolous lawsuits. Does this matter at all?
Nope. Until they sign that check for the law firm of Mooney and Chen, I have no comment on this matter. I mean, clearly, it matters in the sense that it was Digital Homicide is a stupid company, which did not have great products. I can say that now freely because they don't have the money to sue me.
They can't. There's no such thing as slander when you can't afford to sue anyone anymore.
But I mean, like, so it matters in one sense as it's a lesson, but like, you know, if Ubisoft were suing someone because of a slander and some other misappropriation, I would still take it seriously, but this is just frivolous upon frivolous.
Yeah, see, the whole thing as a larger company wouldn't do something like that because they probably wouldn't release a product as abysmal as what Digital Homicide did. And then when the people gave criticism, dared to give criticism of like how bad and how glaringly bad, let's sue them. And now whatever money you possibly made off that game has now gone to lawsuits.
Yeah, exactly.
This is just, it matters because it's a lesson in idiocracy. Digital Homicide, I'm sorry. That was one of the dumbest blunders possible.
Hey, look, okay, you know what? We'll still take your money.
Yeah.
Just cash up front. No COD, all right?
We will go to bat for you against pretty much anyone, but as long as you give us money up front. And we have like a 1-day term of service. So they might actually go for it.
Poodles, lizards, and feds. Oh my! 2 members of the relatively infamous hacking groups Lizard Squad and Poodlecorp are behind bars, having taken credit for DDoS attacks on Xbox Live, PSN, Battle.net, and more. Zachary Buchta and Bradley Von Rory are potentially facing a 10-year sentence each for conspiring to launch cyber attacks. Paul, can gamers finally breathe a sigh of relief as their holiday gaming will not be interrupted by family?
Well, I feel like having people who take down or took down previously online markets or online gaming services, it's a small victory, but I don't think it matters overall because I don't think they were likely to repeat the same thing again next year because in that community, it's like, oh, you did the same thing you did last year. Good job, buddy. You want a repeat cookie too? I can probably give you the same one you had last time.
It's that fortune cookie that says your fortune is in another cookie. Like,
right, yeah. Once you climb that mountain once, no one gives a crap if you do it twice.
No, I agree. I mean, I hate to not matter every single topic we've talked about today, but this doesn't matter. I mean, here's the thing. They started turning into other forms of hacks. And that's what ultimately got them in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if they had kept attacking Xbox, kept attacking Battle.net, like maybe at some point someone would have caught them, but like the thing is they just can't keep it up for enough time. They can't, it's not worth it in anyone's respect to do that. When you're starting to go after individuals and there's fraud and there's all this other stuff that's coming along, that's when people got to take things seriously. That's what we saw here. Yeah. So, doesn't matter. Mm. As the show comes to a close, it's time for Meme of the Week. This week's meme comes to us from Square Enix and Google Translate. If you're a video game company, then of course you should be opening businesses related to your industry, or in Square Enix's case, a cafe. The Square Enix Cafe has some great tie-ins with Final Fantasy XV, like this one of Gladios, enjoying some crispy cheese pizza described by Google Translate as a margarita made with plenty of tomato sauce and a thick dough. Or this one of Prompto eating his vegetable medley soup, aptly described as white stew that contains vegetables such as chicken, and broccoli, carrots, and mushrooms plenty. Remember to get in on this limited time offer, order a primary entree and get this Final Fantasy dining mat. And better yet, order a promo dish and get a random coaster featuring an SNES sprite of your favorite FF15 character. Limited time offer, promotional coaster only valid when supplies last. Coasters are given out randomly. Buy more food, get all four. If you have any ideas for next week's Meme of the Week, be sure to tweet us at nerdy_nights. And that's it for this week's Nerdy News Roundup. Don't let us go the way of VR wires. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
I'm Paul Mooney.
And I'm Sam Chen.
Join us again next week because the last thing the world needed was another nerdy news show, but you tuned in anyways.